Many are overlooking this right now. We are currently at an exciting point in the world, in cryptocurrencies, and perhaps in life as well. 2025 could become the craziest year for the financial world, for Bitcoin, for Ripple, XRP, for cryptocurrencies that we have ever experienced. Michael Saylor warns that many are missing the boat, especially with Bitcoin. And additionally, many are also overlooking another thing, namely Ripple, XRP. Let's therefore first talk about Michael Saylor. Let's discuss what Michael Saylor said, namely that the true promise of Bitcoin is quite simple. Bitcoin is a bank in cyberspace that doesn't steal your money. And it is an asset, it is digital property where you can safely store your savings, which no one can devalue or manipulate.
The real attempt of Bitcoin is very simple. It is a banking cyberspace that will not steal your money. An asset that you can store your life savings in, and nobody can devalue or corrupt.
And these are basically two incredibly strong promises that have never existed in the entire history of humanity. And Michael Saylor also says that Bitcoin is the first perfect money, the first monetary instrument in history that was properly developed as a store of value. According to Michael Saylor, the second best money is gold. But gold has a half-life of 30 years. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has a half-life, according to Michael Saylor, of forever. And because the best money is so much better than the second best, intelligent physicists, economists, or capitalists who understand physics will recognize this and build an entire industry around it.
Bitcoin is the first perfect money, the first monitoring instrument in the history of the world that is properly engineered as a store of value. The second best money is gold, and the second best money has a half-life of 30 years, while the first best money has a half-life of forever. And so the first best is so much better. Of course, intelligent physicists and physicists or capitalists who understand will discover this and implement an industry around it.
So, Michael Saylor's company plays a crucial role in attracting other investors, and everyone in the Bitcoin ecosystem contributes to bringing other investors on board, according to Michael Saylor. But the foundation of this matter is physics. Bitcoin is the first perfect money. Bitcoin as an asset and the Bitcoin network are the largest global open capital network in the world, according to Michael Saylor. It offers free digital access to capital 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It is currently the leading source for crypto loans and capital access worldwide. And that's exactly why Bitcoin works so well and attracts more and more capital. Listen to what Michael Saylor has said.
So my company is an actor to recruit other investors. Anybody in the ecosystem is recruiting other investors. But the fundamental physics of this equation is, this is the world's first perfect money. That's Bitcoin, the asset. And Bitcoin, the network, is the greatest global, open, capital network in the world. It is free, digital, capital 24/360. The number one source of credit. Loud. Access everywhere in the world right now. And so that's why it is performed.
Michael Saylor is therefore Bitcoin digital property. And he also says that if you are a wealthy investor in the first world, you are often trapped in your conventional thinking and feel no need to know more, for example, about Bitcoin, for example, about other cryptocurrencies.
If you're an affliction investor in the first world, you're ingrained. But your conventional wisdom and you don't have a need to know, it's not that you're not smart. I mean, the world's full of very charismatic and brilliant people.
That's exactly why some also overlook what's happening right now and don't invest in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. And also in Ripple XRP. And before we talk about that, if you want to build financial freedom with crypto, want to learn Bitcoin, want to learn crypto, then click on the link in the description below the video. Watch the video, it's free and only available for a short time. First of all, many are currently overlooking what's happening. The fact is, the price predictions for crypto are absolutely incredible for 2025. In recent years, something very positive has developed. There is more harmony in the community between the Bitcoin community and the crypto community. Less conflict and more consensus among analysts about where the market is heading. And an analyst on X, formerly Twitter, talked about Ripple XRP, and I want to share that with you now. He said many would miss the opportunity with this cryptocurrency. And shortly thereafter, the XRP price rose from around 45 cents to over $1 or even $2 before the price fell again. What many overlook with Ripple XRP as they do with Bitcoin is that Bitcoin and Ripple XRP are long-term investments. But if you think you can get rich with quick profits by trading XRP, you're probably on the wrong path. Over the past year, the price of XRP has fluctuated between 42 and 72 cents. And this shows it is an investment for patient investors who recognize the potential and are willing to wait. So don't be fooled by critics who say XP is worthless. And one thing surprises me again and again because it's fascinating how angry. Some people get angry, for example, when Ripple XRP is discussed or when it gains value. Just imagine someone constantly criticizing you just because you chose an investment that is successful. It's absolutely absurd. Or just like the media criticizes Bitcoin, and many also criticize Bitcoin investors, etc., and also those with Ripple XRP. For example, if you see a friend eating a dish that you don't like, you wouldn't constantly tell him how terrible it is, would you? XRP has shown in the past that it can make big leaps. From a value below half a cent, it rose to almost $4 per XRP. And if XRP reaches $10 in the future, for example, some people will probably freak out completely and just get annoyed. Or if it ever manages to reach $50, it will be much more intense. The question now is, why do these people invest so much energy in hating or being against something they could simply ignore? If you think long-term and have the patience, XRP could be one of the best choices. But remember, don't let negative voices influence you. Also, don't let negative voices about Bitcoin influence you, whether they come from the media or so-called experts. Always do your own research, don't even listen to me, and only invest if you are convinced and can stay calm. For example, when markets fluctuate, when there are setbacks, and so on. Did you know, for instance, that Ripple XRP along with Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency, and they are the only cryptocurrencies that have consistently been in the top 10 of market capitalization for over a decade? Before you ask, no, Ethereum is not included. There were even times when Ethereum was almost bankrupt. Many were not around back then, but history shows that Vitalik Buterin and his team even asked investors for money at that time because they wouldn't have been able to continue working otherwise. Back then, much was still in its infancy in the crypto sector with Bitcoin and so on. There were no large budgets, and the developers were essentially working for free, unless they were paid with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which at that time was worth only a few cents. That's why organizations like the Ethereum Foundation or the Cardano Foundation were established to support developers. And an interesting story about this is, it is said, it's a rumor, that Mike Novogratz gave the Ethereum team $1 million, and in return, they gave him 1 million Ether. Whether it really happened exactly like that is unknown, but it shows how precarious the situation was back then for Ethereum and Vitalik Buterin. XRP, on the other hand, has maintained its place in the top 10, even after a brutal 75% price correction during the SEC lawsuit in 2020. While other coins constantly change their positions, XRP has held its ground despite the negative sentiment and the departure of new investors. Did you know, for example, that Ripple and XRP have partnerships with over 300 institutions worldwide? This shows how strong the connection between XRP and the traditional financial world is. That's why it's so important we need to understand to stay updated daily. This way, you can always look back and say, yes, that was already mentioned back then. One thing is totally crazy. There are people who hate Ripple and XRP, and when the price rises, they just get angry. And I absolutely can't understand that because it's quite peculiar. Or the fact is, any real investor who hears that a company has 10 partnerships thinks that's solid. With 75 partnerships, it gets much better, but with 300 partnerships, that's already the next level. That could essentially be a very safe thing. We need to know. Ripple XP has built incredible partnerships over the years with institutions and even central banks, and many central banks are even planning to launch their own stablecoin or central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. You know that if you've been following my channel for a while, and do you know on which blockchain this will likely happen? It will very likely happen exactly on the XRP blockchain. And just because I find central bank digital currencies bad and Bitcoin much better doesn't mean I'm closing my eyes to this development. Is it a surprise that this is coming? Not really, because we've been hearing for years that this is planned. But many were lied to by others that Ripple and XRP were bad and therefore stayed away from it. And let's be honest, who hears that Ripple is working with 300 banks and institutions and then thinks, no, I'd rather buy some other coins except Bitcoin, for example, that makes absolutely no sense? Let's name 5 other projects. Even Bitcoin can't name so many real partnerships because it operates independently and isn't the best asset either. Solana? No, because many of their partnerships are self-created projects. And it's similar with Cardano. There are a few people working on it, but not 300 partnerships. Ripple was even tested by the European Central Bank and mentioned in their reports. Just like the Bank of America and many other banks and institutions worldwide, even the Central Bank of the USA has tested XRP and the ECB is planning its own digital currency. This shows why one should focus on CBDC-related investments, or at least keep them on the radar. They should definitely be on the radar. But only a few really understand this somehow. And I recently saw an analyst, I can't remember the name, and he talked about the technical developments of Ripple XRP. And it became clear that the development from 2017 has a direct connection to the current market situation, which is fundamentally very positive for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And in the long-term chart, it showed that the diagonal resistance line from 2017 is still active for XRP. And this line recently repelled a price movement in March 2024. Overall, there have already been 6 rejections in 2017, and this line seems to play a significant role. And interestingly, the current chart almost exactly resembles that of 2017, just before XRP experienced a 6,000% increase back then. It is therefore forecasted that the worst-case scenario for XRP in 2025 could be a price of $7 per its coin, and a realistic scenario sees the price in the short term between $16 and $20. Whether this will actually happen, we of course do not know, but it is possible. 2025 could become an exceptionally dynamic year for the financial world, for cryptocurrencies, for Bitcoin. That's why it makes so much sense to stay well informed now, and especially for Bitcoin and crypto. The fact is, 2025 will be phenomenal. We need to prepare, learn about Bitcoin, learn about crypto, and if you want to do it, click on the link in the description and watch the video. Start building your crypto financial freedom because time is of the essence.